wonder if fear impacts your decision-making and how you show up at work? Well, today I'm here with Digital Risk's Kim Lanham, and we're going to have a conversation about fear. Kim, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to talk about this topic. I'm a little nervous too.
Oh, a little scared?
A little fearful.
Yes. So, how do you think fear shows up in the workplace?
I think fear shows up in many different ways, but I think that fear really stops us from achieving greatness. It impacts our integrity and it impacts our authenticity. And I think we've all been in situations or worked for companies where there's a lot of operating from fear, and it's not comfortable. People are snappy. There's a lot of blame game going on. It affects the culture, and ultimately all of that stops the company from achieving what it wants to do, which is grow and be profitable.
So clearly you've paid attention to this. Do you have fears? And if so, how do you overcome them?
So as we just talked about, actually doing this interview, we've been talking about doing an mPower moment for a while. I've had a lot of fear around doing this, being vulnerable, being judged. And it really comes down to the fact that I want people to like me and I'm afraid they don't. And that really translates into my job in business development because I have sales. I have to ask people all the time for business, and it scares me because I'm afraid they won't like me. And so I've had to do a lot of work around that, and I've been working with that quite a bit, and I have to break it down. I've gone to several mentors to ask them how to help with that, but really the biggest thing I had to do was change my mindset. And that was, I'm not asking a friend just to give me money, or I'm not asking a potential client who's also a friend to give me money. I have real value to offer in the services that we provide. And I'm doing a disservice to myself and to them by not offering it because I know it's something that they need and can help them achieve their goals.
So it sounds like identify what is causing you the anxiety or the fear and break it down so then you can overcome whatever is in your mind, whether it's negative talk or just this uncomfortable feeling about the situation.
Yep.
So when you hear failure is not an option, and we always talk as leaders that it's okay to fail.
We talk about that.
So tell me what that means to you.
I think we talk about that, and listen, there are situations where failure is not an option. I'm not getting on my airplane tonight where that is not the mindset. But if you think about it, the pilot spent hours and hours in flight simulators and probably failed spectacularly multiple times. Mm-hmm. But they went back, and every time they failed, they really reviewed the tapes, looked at the things, tweaked it, until it was perfect and until they could get behind that cockpit and say failure is not an option. I think as women, especially, we hold ourselves to some greater expectation that we have to get it right the very first time, that failure is not an option. And we really have to break through that because I think, like you said, we as leaders say failure is not an option, but a lot of times the actions and the consequences don't show that.
So as a leader, we should also check ourselves to make sure that when someone has put themselves out there and they have taken a risk, and if it didn't go necessarily 100% the right way, that we learn from it and we also are supportive of how to overcome any kind of fear or anxiety of that person trying to take that step again.
Yes, absolutely, because if we don't fail, we don't learn, and if we don't learn, we don't change, and if we don't change, we can't become the people or the companies we want to be.
Right, that's great. So I had a boss once tell me, and it's always resonated with me, never make a decision that was based in fear. So at a time when something isn't quite going the way we want it to go, and we're looking at how are we going to put this back on track and how are we going to recover, he always told me, take a breath, take a step back, because if you do it in the moment when you're that concerned that something bad is going to happen, oftentimes you don't make the best decision.
That's right. That's right. Oftentimes you don't make the best decision. Oftentimes you're so paralyzed with fear you don't make a decision.
Oh, that's a good point.
Really hurts the organization because we need the leadership and the decision making to move forward.
So we should stop and say to ourselves, am I doing this because I'm anxious or I'm concerned or I'm fearful that if I don't do X, Y, or Z? And also, I think we can use our resources. Yes, we can go to our mentors or we can call other folks and bounce ideas off.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think one of my sayings is always, where energy goes, attention flows. And so I think when we're fearful of something and you put positive energy towards figuring it out, going to your mentors, going out and looking for resources, it's amazing what just pops up and is there to help you. And if you do the opposite and you worry and you fret about it, all those negative things can come to you too. So,
well, I was afraid to approach this topic, but you did such a great job. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you. Thank you. This has been a great experience.